All right, you see this? So this is the draggy graph. I just posted this on my social media accounts. This is from the other day when I was doing some testing with the Mustang. After airing down the rear tires, I was able to get a better 0 to 10, 0 to 20, and 0 to 30 time, knocking a tenth off each one of these over my last best run. What I've noticed is what was going on up here. You can see the car is actually accelerating pretty good right here. You know, as good as a rear-wheel drive car can on the street. And then it starts to dip really slowly here. And then almost here, it is a half of G difference in acceleration. That is crazy. And then there's a spike here. What I've determined that dip and spike is, the dip is when the torque converter starts locking up, and the spike is the 2-3 shift once the torque converter is fully locked. So it's really aggressive, jerky shift right at that 2-3 gear change, and it's hurting performance. As you can see here, once the car gets from 0 to 30, by the way, this lockup starts happening around 38 miles per hour is when this starts happening. And probably about 45 or so is when it seems to be fully locked. My 0 to 10 was faster, 0 to 20 and 0 to 30 was faster. Over here, my 0 to 40, 0 to 50, and 0 to 60 is all slower. And that's because the torque converter is locking up and slowing the car down from the 0 to 40 until 60. And that's very evident here on the graph. That's a problem, it really is. But in this video, I wanted to kind of take a closer look and just to verify that that is what's happening. So I'm going to go back out in the car and I'm on data log a run. I'm also going to record it on the draggy so I have comparable information. I'm going to compare that data log to the draggy graph and I'll see if the torque converter lockup that shows on the data log corresponds with that dip in the graph. And I want to be sure that's exactly what's happening, because the good thing is if that's what it is, then that can be changed with the tune. The bad thing is if it's not that, I'm gonna have to figure out what it is, because that's really hurting the car. So I'm gonna go ahead and get everything together, get in the car, go ahead and start recording these things so we can look at the information and see what the heck is going on. What a good looking car. But it annoys me, and we're gonna figure that out. This really isn't a surprise, because since these 10-speed cars have been produced, there's always been a complaint about the tuning strategy from Ford. I mean, it's not terrible. In my particular situation, to launch this car to the best of its ability, launching in second gear is the way to go. But the crap part is, the way this car comes from Ford, the lockup scheduling is not helping me at all. If you're driving the car as normal, perhaps it doesn't make a difference, but because I have to launch the car in second gear takes me all the way up to the point the torque converter starts locking, and then that's an issue. So this would be another validation of the not so great tuning from Ford with these transmissions. Anyway, enough of all that. I'm gonna go out and get on the road here, get the car warmed up, obviously, and I'm just gonna do literally a run. I just wanna do one run to get the information I need. And then once I do that, we're gonna go and take that information, put it on the laptop, and look at it together to see what is going on. So this isn't like a 0 to 60 video or anything. I just want to document what is going on with this car and talk about it. I got pretty much everything set up. Got the draggy right here. We're gonna go out on the road, get started with some of this. So let's go ahead. All right, so I think I got enough heat in the car and both the transmission and engine that should be able to do this without any issues on a section of road here, which isn't my usual pick for a road to conduct these tests on, because this road's a little uneven. But like I said, I'm not really going after time. I just want to showcase what is going on in the transmission, and you know, this will work just fine for that. Okie dokie. So, And of course, I'm in launching in second gear. And jack strip mode, traction control completely off. Sorry, I kind of went into full concentration mode there mid-sentence and couldn't focus on what I was trying to say. Okay, 0 to 60 captured, data log captured. So now let's go back and see what was going on. Okay, back home. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we got here. I first want to show the drag graph. So we're going to go ahead and look at the drag graph here. And as we can see, 4.86, not the fastest run. This is about like the average of what this car does. And I'm just gonna zoom in here. You can still see this dip. Now, the interesting part here is, and of course, when I wanna go demonstrate this, it doesn't do exactly what it did. It's still doing what it did, just not as aggressively as it was. So I think there are two main reasons for this. But first of all, I just wanna go ahead and show that right here, you can start seeing the decline in acceleration. This is where I believe the torque converter is starting to lock. Now see how this is much more smoother. It's, you know, a very linear line almost, and not just a, you know, drastic dip like the last run was. So, you know, it was pulling pretty good here, and then it starts slowing itself down. And then here's that peak again, which is that 2-3 shift, which is super hard. It is a really gnarly shift. And so there is that. And I think a big part of why maybe this is much more smoother than it was last time has to do with the transmission fluid temp. When I did this, you know, the car was still warming up. The trans temp was around 140 degrees when I did this run. The trans temp when I did the last run was at pretty much its max operating temperature, you know, when the car's normally running, which is about 190 to 200 degrees. From my understanding, trans temperature does go into when the car decides to start slipping the converter, or how it slips the converter. There is that. Here, it starts locking up about 36 miles per hour here. The last run was about right here. It started locking up, which would have been about 38. So, I mean, 2 miles per hour off, that's not a big deal. But that locks in a lot more aggressively because there's less time for it to fully lock in, where this is a lot more linear. So, like I said, I think that has to do with trans temp. So now that we know this happens around 36 miles per hour, let's go into the data log and see what the car is doing exactly. So I have a few different metrics pulled up. So right here I got vehicle speed. Right here would be the bottom of the run when we start, and up here is going to be our top of the run. Right here. That gives us some interesting information, but what I really want to focus on are these two here. So this is the converter desired slip. So this is when the car wants to start slipping the converter, when it started opening the valve to, you know, push fluid through the converter and start to slip it. So this is happening. It starts commanding the slip at this point here, which go down to our speed, and we look 32 miles per hour. So that lines up perfectly with what we're seeing on the draggy graph. So the car is commanding slip, is commanding the converter to start locking up at 32. And this is the speed ratio. So this is telling me how much the converter is spinning or slipping before it is coupled. So if you look here at the beginning of a run, you know, of course, it's going to be unlocked. It's going to be spinning faster. And you can see it goes up, and it's, you know, this is where it's accelerating really nicely. By the way, you can see these humps, and you can see that's where it's accelerating nicely. And you can see how these humps correspond with RPM, which is right here. See how this has a hump here too? And that's when the converter starts slipping. You see the RPMs are raised, and then right here, when the converter really locks, when a converter locks up, right here, it plateaus the RPMs, and this is when it's slowing the car down. The RPMs plateau right here. You could even see that in the vehicle speed. So here's the hump for when the converter is slipping at launch. Then here, it's slipping, starting to lock up right here. Here's a plateau in my speed. This is what's slowing the car down, because it's not maintaining this, rapid acceleration, slowing the car down right here. And then you can see the lines. So you can see how now linear it is because the converter is locked. And it's a linear progression in speed. So let's see, 40, 50 mile per hour, then this bump in speed is the 2-3 shift. This definitely looks like it's spun because the wheel speed, which is going to be the vehicle speed metric, bumped up from 50 to 7 mile per hour and came back down. So that shift is so aggressive that it's actually spinning the tire right there, which is also not good. And then let's see, we go back to our RPM. You can see your plateau, and then once the converter locks, then it's a linear progression in RPM until our 2-3 shift, which is once again right there. You can see RPMs drop, and then you're in third gear and take off again. All of this is exactly what I thought it was. This is directly correlating to how the converter is locking up and where it's locking up in time. And the problem is it's causing a plateau in my acceleration. Right here, you see the plateau in speed starting at when the converter demands lockup, 32 mile per hour, the plateau. And you can see this when the speed levels off and becomes linear. You go back to the Draghi graph, where here's 36 mile per hour. That's when the acceleration forces start to decline. That's a problem. I don't know how much time that really is worth. At the first half of the graph, if we are positive, and we can look at the numbers here, our 0 to 10, 0 to 20, and 0 to 30 is actually pretty good. Our 0 to 40, 0 to 50, and 0 to 60 do not correlate exactly with the first 3 metrics here on acceleration. These are actually slower in relation, which is happening after that plateau in speed due to the torque converter locking up. Oh man. So, moral of the story here is the factory tuning on this car and the way Ford has calibrated torque converter slip is not helping. And the way the car is normally supposed to be run perhaps is not an issue. The way this car is set up currently, the way I know this car accelerates the quickest, it's launching in second gear, heavy boost launch, drag strip mode, advanced traction control fully disabled, with the torque converter slipping where it does, how it does, is slowing the car down. If the torque converter would actually slip after third gear, it actually might be better because the vehicle probably has enough speed and forward momentum at that point to fight the converter enough where it won't show that drastic of a decline in an acceleration. I think that's where it would be best to lock the converter up. Now, I don't know if you can actually have the factory converter lock up that late. I don't know if that's something that is programmable. If you know that, please let me know, because I don't know. Furthermore, if I do want it to lock up after third gear, which is about 50 plus mile per hour, can I do that in a tune, or am I going to have to? Which I don't know if I will, but would I have to actually put a aftermarket torque converter in the car? So that's the unfortunate part of all this, and I don't know the answers to that. If you know the answer, please let me know. If this can be done with a tune with the factory converter, then huzzah, because I do not want to spend a couple grand plus the labor to put a converter in the car for whatever amount of time this is worth on my acceleration. Ain't worth it to me. But if a couple $100 in a tune can get me there, oh, you bet your sweet ass I'm going to do it. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. I think this is some interesting information that I don't know if a lot of people really go over. So it kind of shows the shortcomings of the factory programming on the 10R80 cars. And, it actually shows where there could be improvement. And, it's kind of documenting my build, so I know how to better it. And that's always fun to do, So it's pretty cool to do it, pretty cool to make this video, but it is going to wrap it up for this video. So if you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. Share with everyone you know if you want to see more content like this and you haven't already. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Keep a lookout for the next true car enthusiast video.